This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast.
Long-term partnerships and the steps to start having hard conversations about the sex that we may or may not want to have.
Thanks, babe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to another episode of the Partnership Podcast, where we never know what we're going to talk about before we sit down in these chairs.
We have some things in the barrel sometimes.
Sometimes.
But today, you can tell when we do kind of an extended intro, just like Lauren did. You know how she was kind of talking slowly? It's almost like a long talk. That means she has no idea what we're talking about.
Well, I've thought of things that we could talk about, such as some great times of intimacy and romps in the hay that we have had recently.
We haven't had any romps in the hay. This goes back to the barn. We don't.
Oh my goodness, people totally commented. And they were like, I grew up in the Bay Area and worked at a barn. And I assume they mean the California Bay Area. That's usually what we mean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The hay barrel.
You were far away from the Bay Area.
So that was one person?
Shout out. I see you. Yes. Oh my God. The rest of you, go back and comment on that episode. I know who you are. I need you to do it. Yeah, how is life over there? We switched chairs today just for kicks and giggles.
What do you want to talk about, babe?
Well, I mean, we could talk about some recent sexual encounters that we have had. We could talk about dropping in, seeing if there's anything in recent days. You know, I mean, we could talk about this. We were literally somewhat talking about it while I was getting ready. Because it's not been a thing in our partnership, because you met me after I'd done the work on this. But there are a lot of sexual partnerships, long-term partnerships out there who believe that those days, those slutty days, that type of sex doesn't belong inside of committed long-term partnership. And it was funny to watch your face as we were kind of talking about it, because it's something I work with every single solitary day, this idea that, you know, well, yeah, I was like that when I was in college or post-college, but not now. And you made faces like, Do you think that there is any type of societal script for men similar to that? Do you think that have you ever come encounter with like, oh, I can't want the type of sex that I had before I got married to Lauren?
Like, and I'm speaking just for me.
Yeah. Like,
No.
Have you ever encountered a script like that?
No.
Do you find any friends of yours in long-term partnership marriages that are unhappy with their intimacy inside of marriage?
Yeah, I got a buddy who's like, he's got 2 kids, married. He's been married for a couple of years now, and he like made a kind of an one-off comment. He's like, "Oh, we don't have sex." He said something like that, and I didn't press in, but it was, yeah, and I don't think the buddy is happy in his marriage, so I think he's struggling in his marriage, and yeah.
I think there is just a very broad stroke societal script that women can be sexual beings until they are wives and mothers and inside of long-term partnerships. And inside of there, they have a new set of rules, which is take care of the kids, raise the kids, be whatever is your dynamic inside of your partnership. But having the sex that you want is not often top of the priority list.
For a woman.
For a woman, I think.
Okay. Where does that come from?
So many places. I think society, I think media actually plays a lot into it. I mean, if we think of what's the Kevin Can Fuck Himself TV show that we watched that made fun of sitcoms satirically and also with a dark sense of humor?
The Netflix show, yeah.
And then that makes you think of so many sitcoms of that era, right? That had this dad character and this mom character. And yeah, it's not like the mom's needs were prioritized. It's not like we were seeing her dated and romanced and desired and that being a priority inside of their home. Not at all. Do you want to pause?
No, I think we're good. Our plumber's here.
Our plumbers here, which is just adding a fun thing in the background because we can hear people coming and going in our house. Yeah, so I think societal, like media scripts, but I think if you're going to look at where did media scripts come from, then I think you have to go back even further than that. Who was influencing these writers who wrote these scripts, right? Well, they were probably looking at their families of origin and what was happening there, or making a commentary on those. And if you're like, well, where did that come from? So much of it connects to some form of Christian ideology and like the values. If you're just listening, I'm putting everything in huge air quotes, that this country was formed on.
The nuclear family, like post-World War II kind of ideology.
Yes.
Okay, so how do people in assuming monogamous, committed, long-term relationships have the sex that they want to have? What's the first step to going about doing that?
For me, I think the very first step is getting clear on the origins of the beliefs that you currently hold about the sex that you are or are not entitled to. Getting to the root of them, figuring out where they were planted and who planted them. Because if you align with that person still, well, then maybe you should still ascribe to all of their theories. But if you don't, if they don't mesh with your current values and ethics, and if it's coming from some old stodgy white man who loved women to be property of other men, well, then maybe it's worth saying, I don't follow any other of those types of rules. So maybe I can begin to develop my own, just as most humans have in some other realm. Most of us have done the work in one place, right? One little place to be like, no, I don't align with that anymore. I don't believe that. So I would start there. Like, why do you believe what you believe and who planted it? I think that is a great place to start. So then once you've dug into that, start introducing new theories into your life, such as here on the Partnership Podcast. Start listening to what your friends are saying about the sex that they are or are not having inside of their marriages. And if that's part of the problem too, start getting yourself some new friends. I am serious. The way that people, like you noticed with your buddy, right? He was telling you this in a way that he did not think it would surprise you, in a way that is normalized in his existence. Okay? You didn't say anything back because you were like, it would just sound mean and like show offy if you were like, oh, well.
He's not asking me to solve it. He's not asking for advice either.
He wasn't. But most people of that age, I sat next to two guys at the bar last night. One was married, one's about to propose. And they were both complaining about one about his wife and the other about his about to be wife. And I was like, yeah, this is the nature of how we talk about our relationships.
What were those guys saying?
They were complaining about how they complain and how they sit on the couch all day and how they're always on their phone and how they do this, that, or the other thing and they don't do anything. And I was just like, this is just wild. Like, we have so been conditioned to bond through negativity and through complaining and through kind of, oh, my life is as bad, if not worse than yours. Like, let's talk about how bad life is. And so I think that step 2 is really just start listening with a critical ear of how are you and your friends speaking about your relationships. Because to be the one who has a great relationship is going to all of a sudden be the target of people's hatred and disdain. You are threatening your belonging by starting to heal your relationship. I am not kidding. And so if you're going to start to do the work on that, you're going to need positive reinforcement. So that's why I encourage folks to work with a sexuality educator and intimacy coach. You need people in your corner who are like, you can do this.
Babe, say that again. I think it's very important. You're threatening your belonging when you start trying to change and get out of a complain cycle or get out of a victim cycle, and people will be like, what's wrong with you? This is the person that we know. And maybe those two guys at the bar, two random guys. Or it makes the other person actually very uncomfortable. Or if you were to say, not today, I don't want to do this today. I want to talk about, not even talk about something else. I want to highlight the good things about my partner or the things that we're working on. Oh yeah, you might make someone else very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right? They might go home and say, Brad said blah, blah, blah about his wife. And, right? Like, he's just you wait, right? Till he gets this many years in marriage. Just you wait.
Getting out of a negativity cycle does make people uncomfortable. Or getting out of a...
I mean, they've done research on when somebody decides, watch what's happening with Lizzo right now. She's being crucified because she's choosing to work out, lose some weight. And everybody's like, you've always said body positivity. And she's like, I am still body positivity. I am just choosing to, at this season of my life, work out. Because I want to. I want to see what I can do. I'm still body positive. I am still all bodies deserve pleasure. All bodies are bodies. But people take it as a threat. And they'll do that. They'll say, oh, just wait until they have kids. Oh, just wait until they've been married a few years. And I'm like, yeah, because we view it as a threat to survival, to attachment. Because if somebody else is doing well, then our partner might abandon us because their partnership is better than our partnership.
Okay, so recap. The first thing to do if you want to have the sex that you want to have in long-term relationship with your person, the first thing to do is what again?
Get clear on who planted the beliefs in your quote-unquote sexual garden that you're actually subscribing to.
Okay.
Get clear on like the script writer. Go find the playwright and be like, So that's step one.
Do an inventory. What's step two?
Step two is listen and observe your friend group.
Okay.
Because I believe once you start to do the work, you don't want to get met with negative reinforcement. You want to get met with positive reinforcement. And it's not even worth starting to do the work if the people in the groups that you're in are going to spit in your face.
All right. Great. What's step three?
Start forming new beliefs about sex by introducing new thought into your world, by purposefully, it's like it is the same thing as actually changing your diet, right? They've done research on the ways that we change a habit, right? So next we need to have food in the house that is good for our bodies to consume. And I'm talking anything, even if maybe your tummy can't do lactose, right? So you need to start to have lactose-free things in your house. So I would say you need to start reading new books. You need to start listening to podcasts. You need to start, yes, working with someone, but you don't have to. There's this incredibly amazing book called Becoming Clitorate by Dr. Laurie Mintz. This is, of course, for people with vulvas, vaginas, and clitorises. And they did research on this thing called bibliotherapy, okay, which is therapy by reading, okay? And they surveyed a giant group of people who read this book, Becoming Clitorate, and people who didn't read the book, Becoming Clitorate. And people who read the book, Becoming Clitorate, were 80% more satisfied with their sex lives after finishing the book. It is everything that you and I say all the time, like, what do you call it, YouTube University?
Yeah.
There is so much goodness out there. I love walking hand in hand with my clients into the woods of sexual growth and exploration. But you don't have to have a me. You are inherently able to grow. You are. Do I wish I had had a me? Yeah, it would have made it a whole lot easier. But you can read and heal yourself. It's so cool.
First step.
Get clear on your original beliefs.
Second step.
Observe your friend group.
Third step.
Introduce new information and thought.
When of these 3 steps do you start having a conversation with your person about the sex that you want to have? Or is that in a different step?
I think it's step 4.
So did I just become the sexuality educator?
You did. Good job, baby.
/ free consult.
Thank you. Always / Can I tell the story? Can I introduce you really
Yes.
fast here?
Yeah.
In last week's episode, Trey goes, go to sexedforyou.com /my wife. And I thought it would be so cute to make that an actual URL because I control my website. I can make a new URL. Like a URL slug is what they call that. Y'all, I spent multiple hours. Somebody out there is going to be like, Lauren, I could have helped you with this, and I accept your help. Okay. Multiple hours, because what I didn't know is that majority of slugs start with .com / free consult, like my website. There's always a / and taking out that / you can't do it in URL land. So anyway, I have fancy software. I tried everything. I tried redirect routes. I tried all of these things. I spent far too long. I did create a URL that's URL / / my wife.
It's funny.
It's great. If you go there, you will find funny things. But anyway, back we go.
Step 4.
Step 4, new sex educator. Welcome to the scene.
You're welcome. Actually having a conversation with your partner.
Not a conversation. It's got to be many conversations. But yes, starting the conversations.
Is that scary as fuck?
It's scary as fuck, which is why people work with someone. I have precious new clients. Shout out to all of you. And they've said that these conversations are so vulnerable and scary to have. So many tears last week of thankfulness that I'm just sitting there in the room with them, applauding the agency of everyone there, because it can feel like one of us is right and one of us is wrong. And that's not the case.
Or it could feel like, am I not enough?
Yes.
Or am I not like why?
It can feel like you've been lied to for years, right? Because omission can feel really scary.
Keeping things away from the other person. So not lying to them, but just not telling them.
Do you know
everything.
a new term I learned? Altruistic deceit.
Oh, where it's like, I'm protecting you.
That's exactly.
I did this for this family. Shit like that?
Yep. It's horrifying. The first conversations are so scary.
What's it look like? What's a first conversation even look like?
Dr. Laurie Minson, Becoming Cliterate, talks about it being in a non-sexual space, which I feel like we talked about this recently on this podcast too, that you want to choose a time that is set aside where you are focusing on more than just the sex you're having, truly. And yeah, it's going to be hard. I would, if it was me and I was coaching somebody through, which, is my profession, I would say to take accountability, to lead with, there are some things that I have been keeping from you, and that I want to take accountability for owning. That I am just now understanding that there is sex out there that I think I'd like. And that for this many years, I've been having sex that I don't like. I've been enduring and tolerating. And that is as much my part as it is your part as my sexual partner. And that's hard.
Fuck yeah.
But I think that that is going to lead to a much more positive outcome than you haven't been giving me what I need. Right? Then you might have to, if most of my clients out there are not familiar with female anatomy, do not understand the clitoris, do not understand the arousal process of people with vulvas, do not understand that penetration alone is not going to bring someone to orgasm. They've people with penises who are just like expecting a certain kind of sex inside of marriage and have done no work to understand vulvas and labias and all the juiciness down there. They got work to do. I get the joy of working with men who really want to understand. And then once we've understood anatomy, then they want to understand the erotic mind of a woman, which, let me tell you, Trey does this all the time. Men, cis men in hetero relationships, your partner, if she is female, has a nasty, wonderful erotic mind. And we have been lied to. It is women who crave adventure and risk, who are bored out of their minds. What I would have said to that buddy, had I had a few drinks or shots of tequila, is, oh, I bet you have no idea the kind of sex your wife wants to have. I bet you she is wild and wants adventure.
Oh, and he's seen it before too. I'm assuming during the first stages of dating and romance. He's seen it.
Yep.
I've heard some of that too. Years and years ago, I've heard some of that also.
People married a really fun person. They had a really good picker. I always say, like, you probably picked a good one. And what's happened is we've just expected that, well, now that we're married, we should just be having sex. It's fascinating when you study how sexual response works in people with penises and people with vulvas. And people with penises, we say often have spontaneous desire, right? They see a sexual thing and they're like, I should have sex with that.
Sure.
Right? Which is lovely, right? Partner gets out of the shower and you're like, I should have sex with that.
Most men are able to have sex at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. And it's lovely. It is really good. And evolutionarily, it was fantastic too, because it diversified the species. It spread the seed. It was really good to like literally populate the earth. This is good. Most people with vulvas, all right, are not like that. They have what we call responsive desire. They are turned on by something erotic, by story, by being touched, okay? The desire comes after arousal. Let me say this again. Desire for people with vulvas comes after arousal, which means creating a context for your person with a vulva to get in the mood, a takeaway, an escape, a space is magic. Getting her space to read erotic fiction, getting her space to feel desired. Amazing. Unlike a person with a penis who sees something sexy and goes, I should fuck that. That's not how vulva owners work. And we shame people to think that there's something wrong with them. There is literally nothing wrong with them. When they do side-by-side studies of people with vulvas and people with penises who are masturbating to their preferred erotic material, men come in 1.5 to 2 minutes. Women come in 2 minutes. There's nothing wrong with women. They know how to get themselves there. They do. Their male partners do not. And then they think that something's wrong with them. They just don't want to have sex with them. And so the women just have sex with them. And so it's been sex for years that they just didn't want. This is why women will say, oh, once we had sex, I was like, oh, we should do that more often. That was nice. I'm like, yeah, because desire follows arousal. So eventually you did get to that place. But there's still nothing wrong with you if you think like, oh, why is it that I don't want it like my husband? Well, because he has spontaneous desire and you have responsive desire. It's fine.
Okay. That was beautiful.
Well,
very eloquent, very eloquent, baby. Lauren's rolling.
Yeah, so you got to talk with your partner. It's hard. It's very, very vulnerable. Which, again, is why you need sex-positive friends in your corner.
Okay, but this, like, those hard conversations and that vulnerability, in my experience, leads to fucking breakthroughs and relief and, like, light at the end of the tunnel. Doing the hard shit, the really scary hard shit in life leads to a lot of improvement.
Yeah, actually, okay, my question time for you. There have been a couple of moments in our relationship where we've had really tough conversations. what does that feel like in your body, right? When we've brought up stuff, yeah.
Fear. Fear of upsetting you, fear of making it worse, fear of being too much, fear of not providing. So like basic kind of core things of what I think either a man is or what I think I should be doing in life. So attacking the core foundation of being an adult man in 2025.
How have you pushed through that? I mean, that's like...
By doing it, by doing the scary thing.
Okay.
By opening my mouth and doing the scary thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm lucky where I have a partner that you meet me there, honey. You don't shut down. You don't manipulate me. You don't, no, that's good. You don't shut down and you don't manipulate me. And I want to reflect the same thing. I don't want to shut down and I don't want to manipulate you. I don't want to blame you for my insecurities. So yeah. And that's fucking, we got a healthy thing going. And then we've done the hard, and then it becomes less hard.
That's what I was thinking too. It's like any type of weight training or muscle training. Once you have the muscle memory, even, we had that, I think we talked about it on here, that moment where you felt that the baby and I ganged up on you and you felt deeply hurt and wounded by some of the things that I said and unsupported. I felt in that moment, and you even took space, I want to say, for like 24 hours.
Yeah, I
maybe
didn't want to be
more.
touched.
No.
Yeah, I had a deep distrust for you.
Yes.
And I had to kind of get it back.
And you did it so kindly and knew what you could ask for and take. And my nervous system felt completely fine. I didn't feel abandoned. I felt like this is his work to do, and we will have a conversation on the other side, but I'm not going to push into this right now. This needs space. He's asked for space. He gets space. And the only thing we would text was, you get all the space in the world. You take that time.
The muscle thing.
Yeah.
Weightlifting, say if you stop for a month and then you start again, there's going to be periods of soreness, but your body's actually going to respond of like, oh, I'm used to this and I like this. And it's going to be easier to rebound and get used to that type of like weight training or endurance running or anything. So when we go through our hard periods and when we've had our hard conversations, guess what? It sets you up for having a lot of success in the future.
Yeah. I was just thinking that one of my greatest joys in this work that I do is I will graduate people out of work with me. I'm not interested in creating a codependency upon myself or upon my business. I always say it is the worst business model, the best human model, and I'm going to follow it.
Cool.
I want folks to reclaim and reaccess what was always theirs, then go out and live their lives. Now, the cool thing is, though, is I'll get an email sometimes that says, hey, Lauren, we've stumbled into such and such. Can we do a drop-in? Yes.
We have our person. We do drop-ins.
100% do drop-ins.
Because we need to get a more resilient. We need to get more tools. We need to get an outside opinion. All these things are good.
We run into an obstacle, a wall. Jack Moran will call it like, it feels like a brick wall. We have been there. We're like, we don't know how to do this.
It's mentorship.
It's mentorship. It's lovely.
I mean, people that want to figure it all out for themselves solo, I mean, good luck. Good luck.
And it is lovely. We do not go into our sessions with our person thinking, oh, she's going to like side with one of us or the other one. No, we just know that we need that valuable outside perspective. She usually gives us some tools that change our lives in the moment. It's lovely. It's lovely. Yeah. So yes, the conversations are hard, and they will be conversations you're going to need to have with your person. There's no way around it. Now, do I have clients who work with me? Like, so for instance, if we're talking heads relationships here, I'll have a lot of females who work with me, and then we'll get to a point where they say, can I bring my partner to a session? And I say yes. And so in that session, I will do some basic education on exactly what I was just talking about. Female anatomy, the difference in desire between people with penises and people with vulvas, and their whole eyes open, and it's beautiful. So if somebody is working with me, they can have kind of a third party who's helping facilitate these conversations so it doesn't feel like you don't know anything. It can be like, wow, the way we feel when we're with our person in sessions. It doesn't feel like one of us is having to teach up the other one. It feels like our person is giving this outside information. Yeah. And then I would say after talking with your person, if that was step number 4,
Yeah.
step number 5 is trying it out. You got to risk new things. You got to try. You got to be awkward. You got to be fumbly. You've got to experiment. Whether it is erotic mind stuff that you're playing with, whether it is new oral techniques, whether it is all of a sudden understanding what you need to work to create, maybe more communication in your relationship, maybe more dates, maybe more set aside time. Maybe your partner has a brain that needs to be titillated more. And so maybe you have not been talking with your partner outside of, can we have sex? Right? So maybe your partner just wants to be turned on and mentally stimulated. So maybe that's figuring those types of things out and having conversations throughout the day that show her that you have a brain that is interesting. And so she's more turned on by you.
What if your thing is you want to sleep with other people?
Yeah, that's a possibility too. Totally a possibility. I will say, just like having a baby, sleeping with more people does not fix marriages.
No.
No. So like, that's lovely. And we all are compulsively monogamous in this culture. So yes, do your work around.
We're compulsively monogamous?
In this culture, I think that people get married and are monogamous out of compulsion. I think they're like, this is the thing we have to do.
It's okay.
And so I think that all of us owe it to ourselves to dismantle the norms that we have established around monogamy. Okay. Because regardless, if you start practicing what was our person call it, creative monogamy.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Jolie Hamilton coined the phrase creative monogamy. It's amazing, which is integrating the erotic mind into the bedroom with your primary partner. Maybe you stay in a monogamous relationship, but you are not monogamous in your brains.
The first time I ever practiced creative monogamy was with you, and the last 15 years of my other previous like monogamous relationships, I always thought it was something that couldn't be shared and had to be kind of kept away and would hurt and offend and like ruin a relationship. Even the thought or the talking about incorporating other sex partners in the imagination. And this is the first time I've ever done it. It's a complete game changer.
Game changer.
Complete game changer to share fantasy and be met with curiosity and excitement and tell me more. And then, poof. Poof. It's a thought. It's imagination shared through words or whatever. And then it's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very fulfilling and cathartic.
Yeah. Contrary to actually opening up one's relationship. Again, I am a huge proponent. I help tons of people do this thing. It needs so many pre-steps. So many pre-steps.
It's
so
for me,
hard.
We don't identify as, we're not in an open relationship. Right. I don't go on dates with other women. You don't go on dates with other men. The thought is there's so many moving parts. And the irony is like, you're a pretty good resource to ask on how to start doing that. It's so busy in my mind.
Yeah, as it should be, because human beings are human beings.
I'm not interested in like courting or dating anyone either. I don't know, that may change. I have no idea, but like, yeah, it's really scary. The thought is scary. And one of the things, if we're being brutally honest, is I don't want you to feel like you're not enough. And of course, we talk through that, and we.
Oh, I need to give you one of my favorite books, Love and Abundance: A Counselor's Guide to Open Relationships. Has these old beliefs and new beliefs that, I mean, again, I work with so many couples on this. So, but there's old beliefs such as, if I was enough for my partner, they wouldn't need any other relationships besides this one. And so I know what beliefs that you're believing I believe when you're saying these things.
Yeah, even at the same time, like I don't want to live my life like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to live. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's interesting, and Jessica Fern's book, Polysecure, is fantastic on all of this stuff. And again, I want people to hear that I think it's important to read these books and do these things even inside of monogamous relationships, because what I find with folks inside of monogamous relationships that are compulsively monogamous is that we feel obligatory in the behaviors that we are doing. And so by reading things like Polysecure, A Counselor's Guide to Open Relationships, what you're doing is adding new thoughts. Even if you don't practice them, it starts to give you this sense of freedom inside your current relationship, because you're like, oh, we could do that and not even change our relationship structure, right? Yeah. So one point of Jessica Fern's was I mentioning, this concept of saturation, right? This concept of that there are seasons of life where we're like, well, I couldn't date somebody else, right? Like I have my missions, my purpose, my this types of things. And that would take away from the time, right? Love is abundant. Time is not. It is a finite resource, and it's okay to say that. There's nothing shameful about that. It does not make one less loving to the world around us. You, Trey, have a finite amount of time of which you get to decide what you commit that time to. Same as I. And that is loving to consider, right? Yes, if you were to go out and date someone else, I would want you to date her well, because she would deserve that.
Yeah.
But then, yes, we would be faced with, is Lauren in a place where she is well enough resourced that she doesn't need that dating from Trey? Is that something that she's getting from another place? Where is that happening? Then we get into how does Trey feel about her getting that from another place. If you're watching visually, I hope you just saw his face. He was like, no, what? Or get that from another place. So that's what we get into. But what's beautiful is being brave enough to have these conversations. Most of the time when my clients are having them with me, we find out everybody's on the same page. What starts out as you just want to fuck more women, goes to, oh, you just wanted to reconsider the sex that we were having and know that no one's stuck. We're not stuck.
Trapped,
stuck, things I hear all day, every day. My friends, the place that we are trapped and stuck is in our imagination. Esther Perel says, it is not a crisis of desire, it is a crisis of imagination.
Yeah, and then there's freedom in doing the really, really hard thing. Like the easy thing is to have an affair.
Right.
And then the irony is, if it ruins your life, I was taught that certain people don't have time for counseling and therapy, but they have plenty of time and money for a divorce attorney. They didn't have time for this, but they got plenty of time and resources for that.
I think we could 100% put that out there to our audience. And y'all, please hear me. I'm not saying you need to work with me. I'm saying you may not have time and money right now to say, no, I don't want to work with someone like Lauren. But believe me, as a person who's gone through a divorce, that ain't cheap. It's not cheap. It is not fun. There is tons of time and money poured into it. Working with a sexuality educator could have changed my life with my gay ex-husband, right? Like, could have changed my life. We could have annulled our marriage.
Yeah.
6 months in, it was very clear.
That was a thought you had.
No, never did I ever consider. I thought I was stuck. Talk about compulsive. I never In a million years dreamed I could get out.
But like months in, you're like, this is not good.
It was horrifying. He was a raging alcoholic.
Did you bypass that? Did you?
Yes.
Okay, you just kind of.
Through prayer and supplication.
Okay, all right. Baby, anything else? Or do you want to wrap this one up?
This has been such a good
been a good one.
conversation for
It's
two
been a good
people
one.
who didn't know what they were going to talk about sitting in the chairs. Yeah, so then you need to take risks, risk new behaviors, risk new patterns. And then Dr. Jack Moran would say, we integrate our discoveries. You're going to discover stuff. You are. And that's okay.
That's okay. It's okay, fish.
And you're going to need to integrate what you're learning. And I would say that's like the glorious part, wouldn't you? Like when we've learned something new and we've practiced it and we're over the like, whoa, this is awkward stage, right? I think of when we learned resiliency check-in and we started practicing that and we started really attuning to projection, the way you had projected onto me, like the princess in a tower type of thing, the good boy type of thing. When we really did that work to dismantle Lauren needs to be taken care of in this way. And so therefore everything's on me.
And then for me, it's like, this is how I provide value.
Right.
I feel useless if I don't do this.
Right. So once we started to get to some of that bottom stuff and we started to really practice you not doing anything for me unless asking for it or doing it out of joy and abundance as like a true gift. Y'all, it is literally like magic. It feels so good. Yes, it is awkward and bumpy, and we had a few times, and Trey'll still randomly tally, and we're like, oh, wow, where did this come from? Usually it's got a root. Somewhere back we can find where he felt unsupported, and I can take ownership for that, and then he can take ownership for the tallying. But it is, so good on the other side. Like, I want to tell people, like, it's when my clients leave work, I'll often ask, like, what are your biggest takeaways or what shocked you the most? And often people say that on the other side of the door wasn't total depravity and darkness and confusion and I don't want to be doing this. On the other side was the power of informed decision making. Because once we have a greater understanding of our options and our choices, we don't feel stuck or trapped. We feel like choice makers. And that equals great sex. Thank you for coming to this episode of the Partnership Podcast with Lauren and Trey. Please keep in mind, these are our opinions and our opinions only. Take what you like, leave the rest. You have a right to self-determination and informed decision-making. If you would like to work with someone like a sexuality educator and embodied intimacy coach, I would adore the opportunity to work with you. You can go to sexedforyou.com/free consult and tell me you found us on the Partnership Podcast. And if we're a good fit, you will get approved. If not, I will refer you to a colleague. So please ask away. Thank you, Trey, resident in education here.
Thank you, Lauren, resident in
What
education
a great
as well.
combo that we just had. Y'all have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.